Welcome back, everybody, to Rift Rivals 2017 Finals. Now, before we get into third game and what may just be the final game, as grim as it is to say, I am joined by MVP of the group stage, Phoenix One's Mike Young. I think that's my first question, man. How does it feel to be voted MVP of the group stage? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, coming into Rift Rivals 2017, I don't think anybody would have expected that this rookie jungler, this new player that just came out of solo queue, would be voted as the MVP of the group stages for the NA versus EU matchup. So I'm just as surprised as everybody else. And just coming into this award, I feel that a lot of fans may be worried that it might get to my head, it might affect my gameplay if I somehow reach a slump. But I feel very confident that from this award, from this play at Rift Rivals, that it will only help me improve as a player going forward. It's also helped my experience playing internationally, playing against many different play styles, 3 different teams from Europe that have competitive experience in Worlds, a few of them, G2 for example. And I just have to keep my humble attitude and continue to practice even harder, even though I've been playing so well in this tournament.
That is excellent to hear. I'm sure NA fans will be happy to hear that as well. Now, I'm going to be a little humble here. EU, we've been getting crushed so far. We're down. Unicorns of Love are down. So I want to call upon you, Mike Young. We need some advice. What do you do when you are Unicorns of Love in this situation, when your back is against the wall, when you're down 2 games in a best-of-5 series?
So coming into this tournament, there weren't very many expectations from NA. So the best advice that any team could get from going into an international tournament is just to play your style, just to play like how you would normally do in your own region. Because when you go to an international event, you might notice that the enemy teams are playing different picks than you, but you might notice that they're stronger, they're weaker, and you might want to adapt to them, but you only have so many days to adapt. But if you risk changing your play style completely, like for example, Phoenix One, we didn't necessarily change our play style because we saw that EU was playing a lot of Galio top. We didn't necessarily think it was a very great pick, but we just stuck with our own play style, and that worked out for us. As for Unicorns of Love, I feel that even though all the controversies going on by the fan base, that they're saying that EU meta pretty much sucks, in this event, they still have to, in this best of 5, I feel that they still have to stick with their play style. Otherwise, they'll just get crushed by TSM.
All right, well, I heard the players already, so I'm gonna ask you one final question. EU, NA, you gave them some good advice, but at the end of the day, who is going to take the series, Mike Young? What is going to be the score?
I think that TSM is going to take the series with a 3-0 record.
All right, well, there's not much else to say after that, so casters, get us into this game.
Well, it definitely wasn't the most difficult final
Can't argue with that one, yeah.
It wasn't the most difficult, but there's a kid that's going places. MVP of group stage, arguably rookie of the split already in NA.
Rookie of the split,
and
yes,
the dude is humble as well. Like, I'm very excited to see the career progression of Mike Young. Let's get back on track.
How is he going to stay humble after everyone's been praising him for like, he's only been a professional player a couple weeks?
He just said it. It's snuck into his head. No? Did you not listen to the
your
interview?
head, Kobe.
Kobe, NA wins a couple games and Kobe can't even listen to his own players. We jump into picks and bans. TSM at side selection. They've elected red side once again. So let's just go at it. Elise, Galio, Zach, Caitlyn. And then the only time we'll see some pivots.
They did banish Shen last time as well, TSM. Technically, you don't have to change a whole lot. You're already stomping Unicorns of Love. So Unicorns sticking to the same bans as well. Is that our first pick?
I do think it's a good little pivot here to start targeting Biofrost, though, because Biofrost has really been showing up, especially in this series, but all tournament as well.
I mean, the problem is you give him Thresh again. So yes, you do target his great defensive support, but he looked very good on Thresh in that last game, and he can do exactly the same in this one. You can just go Gragas Thresh for TSM. after they are done hovering every single champion that Unicorns likes to play.
What I liked about the brief hovers there is that Exile has actually played relatively well in the laning phase.
Give me Zyrakan. Yes, thank you very much. I think you need to just go back to something you're super comfortable on, that you know you can force engages with, and then simply go back to game 1 without the aggressive tower dives. Obviously, last game they got completely outplayed in the early game. You couldn't really change that a whole lot.
Honestly, this series is coming down to Korean advice: play better, basically, because they're drafting very similar, and it's actually true.
Let's see if Unicorns can do it. Svenskeren locks in the Kha'Zix, and gonna go back to that Exile point. Definitely not being soloed out as early, but gameplay has happened in the top and bottom lane respectively, so let's see what happens in phase 2.
So with all the jungle focus, Gragas gone, Kha'Zix, Ivern, we might see Rek'Sai come in for Xerxes. It's been the pick for him where he could be really aggressive. He's not a Lee Sin player, so he's not going to pick that. If he is going for like a ganking jungler, it is Rek'Sai. There's of course the Hecarim, which also is an option for him.
I think the Hecarim's a little bit too slow for this, and they kind of need something like maybe the Warwick
Another one
can actually have a bit earlier impact. And Warwick, especially with the blood scent, can actually traverse the map very quickly. So, you know, you can kind of get to problem areas very quickly, and that might help Unicorns react quicker.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of, you know, Unicorn's strategy going into this game. If they think they need early aggression, then it is, you know, we're looking at Warwick, Rek'Sai.
I'm not even thinking early aggression. I'm thinking early defenses so that you don't get so far behind.
I guess that is one thing. Obviously, otherwise, if they do go Hecarim, it's because they're saying we are confident in the scaling. And yes, despite 2 games it went wrong, they believe they can fix that for the 3rd game.
Try again.
Yeah, I love the optimism. Let's see what Unicorns decide to do. A lot of mid lane focus in phase 2. Cassio, Oreo, Syndra taken off the table. Double Lift and Bjergsen, the last 2 members to lock in their roles.
I mean, Corki is still available. We saw Exile play that last time as a fine blind pick for Unicorns. The Ashe, 3rd time for Double Lift. Why change it? It's been actually very successful.
And what's the reply? Corki and something else? Corki and Warwick, Corki and Rek'Sai?
I mean, it literally just depends on what they want to do with their jungler. If they want scaling, we're looking at Hecarim. If they want early ganks, we're looking at Rek'Sai. If they want dueling power, we're looking at Warwick. Like, there's enough options for Xerxes. Seems like he wants the Warwick.
All right, I actually do like Warwick. He got some buffs on 713. You actually don't even have to build the Tiamat, although you probably will, because you get to start with your Rejuve so easily. But the increased clear on the Cinderhulk as well as the extra mana both benefit Warwick. And I think he'll be pretty happy with that one.
This time around, Unicorns did not ban the Cassidy, so TSM did not take the LeBlanc from them.
And they were kind of banking on the fact that Bjergsen hasn't put in a lot of time on Cassidy, I believe, by early picking that LeBlanc with the Cassidy still up. The other thing we always mention is that LeBlanc still can, you know, have pressure early on a Cassidy in lane, especially if, you know, they go for the 2 versus 2s.
So that's actually the funny thing now. TSM's late game, I really like it. Like, I really like their late game setup with the Cassidy, where for me, it's Unicorns of Love who needs to snowball early now and not go to late game, which normally is not the play style they like to play. They have to actually now show a great early game.
The one thing I'm seeing here, the open window for Unicorns of Love, the 2 versus 2 in a LeBlanc with a Warwick versus Cassidy and Kha'Zix. If the LeBlanc starts it off, how you want to do from the bottom side, you can have LeBlanc start the initiation, chain the Cassidy. Once Warwick gets in there, you can have the fear for, even if Kha'Zix is there for a counter gank, you get both of them in the fear and you can still focus one down.
I also think the top lane, if it is a 2v2 setup, is good for Unicorns of Love. But again, so much comes down to how good is the early game. It's not been great 2 games in a row. They do not have the better late game combo all of a sudden against TSM. So TSM can actually sit back and play more passive this time around and be like, okay, Unicorns, what can you do?
Game 1 all over again, potentially. Let's see what Unicorns can do and whether or not they can make any of these skirmishes or ganks. God forbid tower dives work in their favor this time round. It is game 3 in the Rift Rivals Finals between North America and Europe. TSM have outclassed UOL 2 games in a row, and they just need 1 more Nexus to be claiming the title.
TSM have only dropped a single game the entire tournament, and looking to keep it that way as well. Let's see if they go for the same Raptor invade with multiple people trying to slow down Xerxes. The thing with Warwick is Warwick will often also start on a buff with the Q. You get that percentage health damage. You can burn the buff down pretty quickly. You want to get to your blood scent next. And you can have some actually very early moves. He doesn't kind of have to start Raptors, and actually doesn't have AoE to help with starting Raptors.
Yeah, I've seen blue buff starts quite often. Like blue buff, do a Grom, but then like start going and doing like the full clear, or blue buff into the wolf camp.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the blue buff wolf into red buff and getting out there to fight people, because at level 3, very powerful duelist, as you said before. And especially, I have my eyes on this mid lane because it would kind of flip the entire script and sort of face of the game if Unicorns were the ones who go aggressive early and around mid.
And that's where it's on Bjergsen to obviously not try and play aggressive early on. Kassadin, so much of it is just about trading with Q on the enemy champion and just last hitting with your auto attacks and your W for the minis, and don't push the wave. Bot lane though, Unicorns are off.
Biofrost gets knocked up by the Grand Entrance, finds the Flay though. Level 1v level 1, it's Bio that's chunked down to 50, and Double gets a little bit back, and a little bit of consumables being burned through.
This duo is so good at trading with that Deadly Plumage early on. Both of them getting the attack speed buff, and you can see they got quite a significant amount of damage off in that little trade.
Well, let's see whether or not Samux and Hillsong can use it to get an advantage. Remember last game, they were down 30 CS by 5 minutes. Engage goes in, Biofrost is caught out, flashes may be needed. Already used, somebody heal! First blood picked up by Hillsong. Double F's trying to turn around. Samux and Hilly now running for their lives.
Yeah, Biofrost right here, disrespecting how strong Rakan and Xayah are. Level 1 with that W from Xayah going on to Rakan as well. Mid lane, we see just a little bit of trading and a minion chasing Exile down.
Yeah, huge disrespect. And Unicorns do, with the earlier game-oriented draft, go aggressive in the early game. Bottom lane getting first blood like that is unexpected, though. Even with that matchup, usually, especially after an early trade like Bio already took, you would see him hover back more, but he's playing so aggressively.
And there's just really no reason for him to actually go aggressive right there, and that's why it's so easy for Unicorns to just punish him. Double if trying to do what he can in return, but kill already secured for Samux. Early back, he can get then his longsword and return to lane. And meanwhile, Xerxes on this Warwick here, he's just clearing his entire jungle. He's not even needed for level 3 ganks.
Exactly. Feels quite good for him. Meanwhile, on the top side, Hearts are going for a trade during the exhausted mini Gnar state. Definitely what you want to keep track of in those trades with the Gnar.
Do you see Hillsang around the mid lane? Control ward being placed as well, so kind of banking on no ward being here in the mid lane. They want to get a flash.
Hold on, rooted in place, knocked in the air. Flash is available, not even needed. Xerxes unable to get in range and proc that fear. So 3.5 minutes in, Unicorns have got first blood very early on. I'm getting flashbacks and deja vu to game 1 of the series, albeit the kill's in a different lane.
So remember, last game, Unicorns also even got flash burned on Double Lift early. So they've got a lot of advantages early on over the bottom lane, but Double Lift and Biofrost have been playing their way out of those early disadvantages so far. We'll see if they can keep it up, though. Xayah and Rakan, definitely a duo that can pressure that.
And we'll keep our eyes on how UOL continue to adapt, because they really need to work on this early to mid-game transition that has fallen flat. And, Kobe, in the previous game, you talked about how the NA teams will be taking some experience and knowledge and development back to their own region. UOL and EU and G2 and Fnatic and every other team watching, I really want to see what they're going to be doing and how they're going to figure up, and how do they just step up? How do they fix these flaws that have been exposed? And
they have a week to figure that out. For now, Unicorns of Love, they just want to win this game here and at least make sure it's not a 3-0. And they're actually off to a good start with Xayah Rakan. We're still kind of following Xerxes. He's invaded into the jungle of TSM. He's on a ward recalling, but good order clear for him. We'll have enough gold to also go back and get his Tiamat. And he's a happy man.
Yeah, very happy. And especially in this matchup, even if the Kha'Zix finds you isolated, if he jumps on you, you can have your damage reduction with your E and then have it go the full duration, then popping off in the fear buys you quite a lot of time. And Warwick himself can even turn those early trades around. Very good if they meet up in the 1 versus 1. And look at that, early vision even in favor of Unicorns of Love. They get the scuttle, their priority on bottom side, and that early control ward you talked about.
Yeah, always one of the problems when you have a Kassadin on your team is you can't really fight a whole lot of river vision because you're just kind of sitting there under your tower, crying for help 24/7 and just saying you want to just farm. Double Lift bottom lane right now. Might get caught out.
Sven is coming down the river, though. They have to be careful. Biofrost does get caught.
A lot of damage already down. Samex and Hilly trying to shut him down. They will get the first kill of the fight before Samex is shut down. Svenskeren manages to leap forward, and Hilly throws down the flash. Gonna look underneath the tower. Double Lift, sends out the volley. Not enough to get the kill.
So despite Unicorns of Love having all the early wards here, they actually get surprised by Svenskeren being on the bottom side, and that's why they end up trading 1-for-1 in the trade. Xerxes is only level 5, no ulti yet from him. And he's just down here to protect Hylissang a little bit and make sure he doesn't die on the tower. And of course, steal away all the farm.
Of course, #1 jungler.
I mean, that is what you do as a jungler.
Svenskeren, though, going to steal away his Raptors while he steals away his teammates' farm. So in the end, it is actually TSM that may get those rewards. They did see him walk over a ward, though. Let's see if Exile and Xerxes will be able to punish him. He's activated the Blood Scent. I guess it just fell off.
If he wants to run down anybody.
Too late.
Yep, Raptor camp's already gone. You see Warwick stats for Xerxes. 6 wins, 2 losses. Definitely one of his sort of signature champions here in the ULCS.
And after that play, Biofrost back out to #1 objective, controlling the Vizier around the mid lane. TSM do have advantage here in the brush.
Death Sentence comes down. Xerxes still no access to his ultimate. Dash over the wall for Svenskeren. Exile forced to distort backwards. It's going to be Hilly going down, and Bjergsen gets his first kill of the game.
And these are the kind of mistakes Unicorns of Love they just can't afford to make with their composition. They end up diving in here without having level 6 on Xerxes. Everyone from TSM had already moved up to join the fight, and Hylissang just dies.
The unfortunate thing there for Xerxes, he activated Blood Scent and walked so quickly towards the brush that he isolated himself from Hylissang for the very beginning. So Sven did get a first empower Q off with the isolated damage to start this trade, I believe. Yeah, the support and jungler are working together, but he's a bit too far, so big burst of damage. And then when they chase over, he does not follow. They all get split up. TSM are 100% ready for this. They were the ones setting the play up to begin with.
Exactly, and Hylissang ended up using every single cooldown, and obviously LeBlanc can just distortion back to get out. But there's no way out for Hylissang once he's actually going in there, meaning that he just ends up dying without really even being close to getting a kill. And that's now 2 kills for TSM, and they suddenly even out that gold lead.
Well, there we go. Even game as we approach 8 minutes. Caught a glimpse there of Hornsa and Chachi trading back and forth. Hornsa was looking for the barrel under the tower, but Chachi was able to hop away to safety. And take a look at those stats on your screen.
KDA player.
Svenskeren has only died once this final so far, and 75% kill participation.
Yeah, he has absolutely been going off on this Kha'Zix pick, multiple games. Going legendary, actually. Now he's invading with his top laner pushing up on top side. Even though his mid laner had recalled, still is advisable to go for basically the first half of that invade. Don't want to overextend and go for the wolves. He just drops off extra vision, and he can try and actually affect mid lane next.
I still find it super interesting how all these American junglers have actually looked, or the NA junglers, even though some of them obviously are. EU imports have looked so good in this tournament here.
One of them.
One of them being that.
Yep.
That is one of them, this guy on your screen. But I mean, the NA junglers right now have just been really outplaying a lot of the European junglers this tournament. And it's something to go and look back at for the European teams to be like, how do we enable that jungler more? How do you make sure the jungler is actually with his mid laner, with his support, and making plays together?
It's not the first time we've actually had that narrative this year. Back in spring, IEM, when EU representatives went over, were shown up by Casa, and we heard so many stories in the spring split of how EU LCS junglers needed to learn and adapt and adjust to the jungle pathing. We'll see what they can take away from Rift Rivals. Hilly and Samex moving forward was looking for that grand entrance, but nothing followed.
And once again, you can see the bottom lane here, Biofrost, whether he's on Braum, whether he's on Thresh, he's continually waiting in brush by Double Lift. So Unicorns are never sure if Double Lift is pushing up by himself or if he's laning by himself. If Biofrost has slipped into the Fog of War for a very long time, they have to respect his roam at the same time as his lane pressure because he has counter-ganked them many times by mid.
Well, 2 chains into infinite duress. Flash forward, Xerxes kills Bjergsen.
I was just about to say, we need to see something from Xerxes here with that ulti ready. You gotta start snowballing your lanes, and the fact that Bjergsen actually jumped aggressively in the mid lane allowed Exile to land the chains.
All right, let's see what Svenskeren does. He actually hovered down the mid lane. He wants to clean up the extra minions here and put a stop to this pressure. little bit of damage onto the turret, but not much.
All right, flash is used already by Hornster. The Gnar comes out as well as a big barrel. Chachi takes 2 turret shots. He's forced to run for his life, trading into minions.
Warwick on the way, though. Blood sent over Haunter. He has to respect this. Even though the ultimate was used from Circe, they could go for a tower dive if Haunter was getting a bit too aggressive there. So that's why he backs off under turret just to pick up the farm.
Visit Chachi's able to escape this time round. If I recall correctly, he died to expect not a week or 2 ago in a very similar scenario.
That is true. Bjergsen used his TP back to the mid lane, didn't want to go join a fight in the top lane to see if he maybe could get that kill on Visichachi. Let's see, we see Svenskeren on top side.
Teleport as well.
Xerxes there.
No infinite duress for Xerxes. The fear not going to connect. It does right at the end. Boomerang blade comes down. Svenskeren reckons he wants this fight. Has got the leap to safety if needed. Chachi continues to chase, hops forward, gets the hyper proc. Xerxes not going to be able to find any more. Not enough hard CC in that lane without Mega Gnar or Warwick's ultimate. Take a quick trade mid lane, and Exile's getting chunked down by Bjergsen.
Yeah, during all these trades, too, we do have to keep in mind, you know, the goals of these 2 team compositions. And as Deficio was talking about super early on, the scaling this time for TSM, definitely quite a bit better. And that's why Unicorns need to keep up these plays in this proactive style.
Yeah, and that's also why it's a bit of a problem for them. Bjergsen is now hit level 9 in the mid lane. He can actually go aggressive on Exile. He's not really under a lot of pressure. He died that one time we saw earlier against Xerxes, but whenever he sees the Warwick in another lane, he jumps Exile instantly. And that actually means now that this Kassadin has gotten past the worst point of his game, which is very, very early on. And we always know Kassadin on stage, he tends to find these openings where he gets a few kills and he gets to the late game part.
Well, luckily, Bjergsen's opponent Exile has got a little bit more mobility. Luckily for UOL, that is. So if Doublelift tries to go NA Sniper and send those Ash arrows down, maybe Exile can escape. And Deficio used a phrase, worst part of the game for Kassadin. Well, UOL at 15 minutes in both previous games was down 5,300 and 5,600 gold respectively. Now they're only down 500 gold as we're getting closer to this mid game.
And you have to keep your eyes on the river vision. We were giving, you know, praise to Unicorns after their bottom lane got first blood, and they were pushing up, that they had a lot, but TSM have retaken it.
All right, quickness comes out. Death Sentence actually interrupts. Hylissang. Svenskeren's going to jump in, and with the help of Doublelift, pick up an easy kill for TSM.
And not only river vision, but also entire red quadrant vision. TSM slipped through. Svenskeren is there, unannounced, able to pick up another kill onto Hylissang after he goes very aggressive.
TSM was just very good at predicting the plays. They saw that one coming a mile away. You saw once again Bifrost standing so far away from Doublelift. Hylissang actually flashed in, and Doublelift already clicked the lantern. He was out of there straight away, and Hylissang ends up then getting caught.
Oh, Exile again with a double change trade. Xerxes does not pull the trigger for infinite duress under the tower.
Also keep in mind, Exile was standing and tanking the entire wave right there. Bjergsen was just sitting at his tower being like, okay, I'm currently winning the trade. If you keep auto-attacking me, I got the minions on my side.
Dragon gets started here, by the way, Kobe. Sorry to cut you off. That'll be the 23rd of Rift Rivals for TSM. And total 52 for North American LCS.
NA Drake, let's take another look at this, because again, keep talking about Bio, slipping into the fog of war, being on the top side, away from Doublelift so they can get the most out of their lanterns. He even gets just outside of the knockup, and again, punishes Hille after Unicorns go for this play. Svenskeren had been walking through the Unicorns red quadrant the entire time as well, easily able to slip in for the extra kill.
So 2,000 gold ahead now for TSM. Oh, Hansa tries to interrupt the jump.
Does indeed. Krager's barrel comes out, and Xerxes already left. I saw Exile's Mimic clone in between 2 towers, and UOL just fishing for opportunities, but falling slightly behind.
All right, now TSM are just winning this early game through the bottom lane, with, of course, also Svenskeren being around when he's needed, and that means that Bjergsen once again gets free time in the mid lane to sit and farm. Almost level 11, 2,000 gold lead for the team that is currently outscaling the Unicorns of Love. So that is once again why we actually need to see Xerxes and Hylissang just, they have to almost keep gambling and try and go for some of these really aggressive engages. Problem is just they're backfiring because once again TSM, they know exactly where they are on the map and they're really good at actually responding.
Yeah, what are they gonna do? Turret dive a Kassadin that has a constantly roaming Thresh? I'm actually gonna check the stats after this game and check on Biofrost's proximity to Doublelift, because he has done a very good job denying information to Unicorns of Love. Now they're moving up the river though, they're passing control wards, so Exile should see them.
All right, double lift. Can you find the Enchanted Crystal Arrow? Decides not to pull the trigger yet.
But then what I want to see from Unicorns, if it's not, you know, hey, we can't really go mid lane, then top lane is an opening for you. Visichachi will win the side lane split push, but Xerxes walked up there with ulti, then just stepped away because he had no vision of the rest of TSM, so he had to just play safe. He's now level 9. We've seen 1 ulti from him so far. We need to see more if you want to really snowball this composition, and this top lane tower is very low. There's a chance for Unicorns to pick up some gold. Right now, Exile might be under pressure, though.
Taking a look for Ashe, looking for that Ashe arrow. That has to be the way in.
He was hoping that Exile would distortion the wave to try and wave clear, and then you could obviously shoot the arrow onto him. But Exile didn't do it.
Yeah, that implied pressure, the implied threat of Biofrost, constantly out of vision. Gonna keep them playing safe. Turret almost even going down here, but Unicorn's teleporting in.
All right, Exile's gonna find the charm. That's a 2-man knock up, the quickness to follow. Bjergsen's already out to the fight. Double Lift fires down the arrow, catches onto Hilly as Chachi's TP kills Double Lift.
Good pick for Unicorns. They need to get some pressure on the objective afterwards as well. Bjergsen!
Oh, Bjergsen forced to flash away, but Exile traded his in reply. Svenskeren waiting over the walls of the Raptor camp, and Hornster's got a big cask waiting.
Bjergsen with TP up. He's going back to base now. They were pinging on a ward behind Unicorns, but they're not going for it. This is what we want to see, you know, some aggressive plays here. You gotta keep forcing some of these fights before TSM gets full late game. I like the engage from Unicorns of Love. Sadly for them, they only got that 1 kill, but they got tower at least, and now someone's fighting.
Dicking around, and Hornster kills Exile. There's the teleport you talked about as Bjergsen. Rift walks into the river. Defensive flash from Samux already. Hilly's gonna try dash to safety. 4-man stack. Gets the knock up in, gets the flight back out. Hilly and Samux trying to get the damage down as TSM get 1 and then get away.
See if they actually defend the top turret here. Double does move in for the minion waves, even though Unicorns of Love have the brush. How safe does he feel? Hawkshot is available, by the way.
He thinks they're all back in base.
He's toast.
No flash for Double Lift. Looking for the knock-up. Manages to find it. Unicorns kill Double Lift.
Nice little waiting game there for the Unicorns of Love. Double Lift definitely expecting him back in base. Svenskeren, I don't think he can do this.
No, but he's got Biofrost there and, you know, multiple escapes possible, but Rift Herald gonna go down, probably top turret can go down. Unicorns of Love pressing this mid game just as they need to.
What was that term? Thanks for the leash. As Unicorns of Love pick up the Rift Herald. They've got 1 tower to their name. The second will fall, and this will keep Unicorns of Love within gold touching distance of TSM.
Such a huge moment. It was TSM waiting in that brush in the mid lane, hoping they could catch Exile. So when they actually stepped into the lane, Unicorns, they were ready. TPing behind with Visichachi, win the fight, get mid tower as well. And then the follow-up kill on Double Lift. So let's see it again. This after TSM steps in towards this mid lane tower, getting a bit greedy, and instantly just get punished by Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, Visichachi is on Double Lift right now, so there's no way he's getting out of this without summoner spells. And as you talked about, after the pick here, Unicorns of Love able to take down this turret. However, then TSM used a teleport of their own to get the kill back. Oh, we're back in it.
We are indeed, and Bjergsen's already dead. Hornster's thrown down the barrel to try and buy some time as Samux was the one that got that credit. Svenskeren's running for his life, and TSM disengage.
Oh, not going to be able to do so.
No, they're not. Infinite Duress comes out. The knock-up is flashed away from Bio.
I think TSM are actually getting too lax. Yesterday on the desk, I said the one thing you don't want to do against Unicorns in the mid-game, send your AD carry to split push on the sideways, because that's why charging mid works for them.
Another flash use, so it's Biofrost and Double Lift. The gnaw backwards into the Blade Caller route. It's a kill for Exile. The Rift Herald slams down the mid-inner turret, and the Unicorns have a gold lead as we approach 20 minutes.
It's all about that mid lane right now. They're just finding the picks. TSM, they walk straight into it, and then another great engage from Unicorns of Love. That's 2 turrets in the mid lane going down. Let's see, so Bjergsen jumps forward, but again, he's forgetting he's in the mid lane.
And he's forgetting that they sent Double Lift top again. So Double Lift went top. He died before, you know, they got him out of the brush. But again, as you said, they go mid lane while their AD carry is top. He cannot join, and Unicorns, that's exactly what they love. They jump on the opportunity there, going aggressive and getting some more out of that mid lane.
And then TSM feels like they have to try and defend this one, despite being against the Rift Herald as well. And the Mega now coming up from Chachi. Great engagement, even getting a flash from Double Lift, and then lands the 2-man stun into a great ulti.
That just means Unicorns take the lead. 8 kills to 4, plus 2,000 gold after 20 minutes, and tournament life is on the line. This is the first time the Unicorns have had a gold lead at 20 minutes in the entirety of Rift Rivals 2017.
And the one game where they really needed, because they did not have the scaling comp on their side. Obviously, the late game teamfight with things like Xayah and Gnar can definitely do a lot of damage, but you're always just afraid of that Kassadin.
Yeah, now things get interesting here, and we do have to keep track of the setups. Lots of Unicorn vision into the blue quadrant of TSM, and currently they are actually grouping up back around mid once again. The Ocean Drake is available to pull them out, and he gets charmed.
All right, Svenskern's running for his life. No flash available to him. Void Assault will buy a few seconds of time. Samux looking, the Lantern from Biofrost gets Svenskern to safety.
Good moves, and you can see the mind games. This is something that Shaco players learned a long time ago, but right before you go invisible, walk the direction you are not going to run after you use your invisibility skill, and he's able to juke them for just long enough there.
There's a Chachi trading very happily into Haunter here. Got that Warden's Mail, a little bit of armor, and Xerxes, as it stands, he's now going to look for the Dragon. Okay, double ups the target, no flash, remember. Chachi was able to bait that earlier.
Yeah, now TSM just falling apart because there's so much mobility on the side of Unicorns of Love with LeBlanc and Rakan in here. So whenever a no-flash AD carry steps forward in any lane, well, he might get jumped instantly. Great reaction from Unicorns of Love, and it's all just based around them pulling the trigger.
All right, well, now we have to worry about the teleports coming in as well, as Hanzo's getting very low under his turret. TSM are here.
Xerxes, infinite duress over the wall, uses that one defensively. The tower still lives. If I look at the minimap, Bjergsen and Exile trading in the top lane, and as it stands, Samux just farming mid lane. So UOL, they keep their gold lead and they're spreading TSM across the map, spreading them quite thin as it stands.
I mean, they want to keep finding double lifts as well. Make sure you can never actually get any farm in any lanes. Right now, though, it is just a full reset. Everyone going back to base from the Unicorns of Love. You got to get your items, not your control wards. That's, of course, important to highlight.
Pretty funny that TSM now need to reset their mindset, right? Because the last two games have been smashing, just overwhelming advantages for them that they haven't had to worry about defensive vision, about having to reset up, you know, those tools so that they can safely farm the lanes. You know, step number one wasn't really a worry before, but now it is, and it should, you know, be on their radar after Doublelift has died 3 times in a row.
And it's nice to see the Unicorns, when they have the opportunity, can show a measure of control. We wanted to see it in game 2 of this series, but TSM never gave them a chance. TSM had the tower dive that strangled the life out of UOL in that game. Now let's see what UOL's mid-game is like. They've got a small lead, they've got a mid-game team composition, which we talked about a little bit, and they are starting to pull TSM around the map, but flashes are becoming available, so that opens up opportunities for TSM.
And they have Samux sitting right now with 4 kills. Already completed 2 full items and has a BF sword as well coming in. So extremely strong on his side. Very hard for Doublelift to actually deal damage in these fights because he's playing an AD carry with no sort of mobilities against things like a Mega Gnar, things like a Warwick that can very easily actually get to him. So he, most of the time, will probably just be running away and trying to land like long-range volleys. Samux should be able to play more aggressive in the fights here.
Has been on the front line a lot. I'm looking at teleports, by the way. All 4 are available. Looking at vision. Unicorns of Love invading into the darkness. A little bit risky here, but they've got numbers advantage, and Chachi's got that TP up, which I mentioned.
The problem for Unicorns, though, is they've placed all the control wards at the Baron itself. So they can't actually deny a whole lot of TSM vision in here. You can see a lot of wards being placed up by TSM, so they actually know, okay, you're sitting in that brush, or you're sitting near the red buff. Now they're with the sweeper. They do actually take one of the wards out, and they're trying to just make sure that no one knows what's happening, and maybe Baron is started, maybe they're hiding somewhere, you don't actually know.
Yeah, the benefits of, you know, using Ashe
that one's awarded.
And having one of those AD carries with less mobility is that he does have the Hawk Shot and is helping another form of checking the Baron for vision. But slowly but surely, you need to move up the ward line through the red quadrant to gain vision of those corridors leading up to it.
It is a little bit too easy for Svenskeren to walk in and place a ward here, simply based on the fact that Unicorns, again, did not fully deny all the vision here, and TSM actually kind of knew exactly where they were with that ward near the red buff, and they are easily able to stop the Baron. Meanwhile, mid lane fights.
All right, Lantern to safety once again. Looking at the itemization really quickly, by the way. 2 items on the way for Exile. as he gets chunked down by the Lichbane fully stacked rower of Bjergsen. Ash Arrow called the Mimic. I think that was the ultimate of LeBlanc. Is now Sven Skjeren. He's looking for Samux. Samux with the Feather Storm, forced to flash to safety. A great gnaw buys enough time for Samux to escape. Hauntz's barrel was better. Sven Skjeren gets the first kill, followed quickly by Double Lift. Bjergsen, another for Sven Skjeren. TSM, ace, Unicorns.
Clean ace, and that's going to be buried. TSM looking to put North America on the top.
Hauntzer, the hero, manages to bounce Unicorns away. And the Unicorns of Love lose Baron, lose control, and they're in a game where their opponents scale. That might lose them the game.
All that hard work here from the Unicorns of Love, it does not pay off because they end up going right back into the mid lane, looking for another fight. He's actually fine with the clone poke in the arrow.
Take a look at Double F's early flash here. As soon as he sees the quickness activated by Hilly, he knows it's coming.
It's also about Samux, though, being so far forward here, so he's forced to use everything defensively. And now with the Gragas coming in, it's so easy for Haunter just to land it on multiple members.
Exactly. Haunter there even survives the entire engagement afterwards, healing back up. TSM now with a very big opportunity to get more from Unicorns.
I think that Megana also from Chachi only actually hit Haunter and then some minions that got pushed into the wall. All the carries from TSM were still standing far enough away, so they weren't actually touched by it. Suddenly there's no CC because Hylissang had used everything at the start of the fight.
All right.
Visit Chachi wants to try to chase him down, Kobe.
No, Kobe, you can take it.
No.
He has failed.
Yep.
Let me update you on the status of chasing down Bjergsen.
They're trying again. Nope, fail again.
It's just the distortion that jumped in. Team Solomid, 2,000 gold in the lead. I'm going to go back to something we were talking about a little bit earlier. Unicorns of Love, they showed some growth in this game, but now they have to bounce back from behind. They have to deal with this Baron-empowered TSM. And a Lantern from Double Lift doesn't get the tower quite. A few more hits will take it down.
Yeah, a few more hits on that one. Bjergsen can take up the top side one as well. Talking about that Baron power play and how much TSM have the opportunity to get here from Unicorns. Tremendous amount of real estate on Summoner's Rift. Ocean Drake coming up in a couple seconds as well. Might be a key point.
Teleport's available for Bjergsen if a fight continues to break out. Sven Skjeren and Haunter looking for some targets.
Yeah, they have Baron buff, so they just want to delay for their split pusher. Bjergsen right now, tremendous pressure on the top side. He has teleport available. All the cards are TSM's right now. It's just up to them playing them correctly.
That's the problem, obviously, for Unicorns of Love. They were kind of relying on them not having, you know, a bad fight or making a mistake around Baron, and suddenly they get that bad fight here. TSM, they get right back into the game, multiple kills on their side, and they pick up the Baron buff that actually Unicorns of Love needed to start closing out the game. And that's where suddenly you can see it right in front of you. You're so close, you're almost feeling it, and then everything just gets taken away.
Unicorns of Love, by the way, got a total 10 kills in their 2 previous games. They get one more, they will equal it. Unfortunately, though, they ain't going to be very difficult. That's a good stunner to Double Lift. He's able to QSS his way to safety. Infinite Duress comes out. It's a fight on 2 fronts. Hauntz's down on the side of TSM, but the 4-man stack is flying forward. TSM have lost a second. Sven Skjeren's out. Samux is still relatively untouched. Now he's getting hammered down. Blade Caller comes out as Bjergsen Rift walks to safety. Xerxes gets caught by the death sentence, buys a couple times. Samux gets the kill, though, and Bio's going to be the next target. Hilly will have his cooldowns available soon as Bjergsen waits in the wings. He's stood right on top of a ward, though, and forced to run away. Teleport coming out from Exile into the mid lane.
Yeah, not only the ward, but Blood Scent. You can't hide from that. Xerxes on the trail.
Oh, and Atlanta, no, just takes the gate.
Gonna look for an engage, decides to bounce away. Exile, how confident is he feeling? Decides against it.
All right, you get your kills right there, Trevor, for Unicorns of Love. 12 now in this game. Samux sitting with 7 here on this Xayah. Let's see what happens in the fight. So, good engage from Hylissang onto Double Lift, and then the ulti from Xerxes, I believe it just misses a Double Lift right there. Meanwhile, the Haunter is on the tower, so he can't really stay alive.
Yeah, Haunter is taking the turret as well as the rest of the Unicorns, DPS. So he goes down very quickly. And TSM, unable to get that counter kill onto Exile, was huge. He gets just barely out.
So the fact that Unicorns can just kind of jump in and out of tower range. Whenever they feel like, okay, I'm on the threat, step under the tower, TSM can't really chase under. They were fighting just outside of it. Making it hard for TSM to do anything.
Yeah. Regardless, though, because TSM had pushed up so heavily, there was no extra objective there for Unicorns. Even after they win the fight, the Drake will go over to TSM.
And you can see in that fight right there, 48 damage from Xerxes. Ulti just missed, it looked like. QSS was obviously used by Doublelift earlier.
And that means TSM get their second dragon of the game. They still maintain control of the game, but slight reset here. Unicorns, after 30 minutes, they had lost both previous games by this point. Now they need to claw back some of this lead, and their composition can do well. They're going to be very careful with how and where they pick their fights.
They're trying to preemptively get some pressure on mid and top here to kind of deny or force TSM back from their split push, because Bjergsen is going to try and split push all day here. And it does not work as they invade into the jungle and have to recall back to deal with it anyway. Bjergsen's still probably going to claim his prize.
So easily takes down the tower. And, you know, all week long, I've heard DeFiscio backstage saying, you know, Cassidy just works on stage, man. Cassidy on stage is a different beast to every other Cassidy in solo queue or elsewhere.
I mean, it's just, I feel so often with Western teams on stage, it's rare you have games where teams can, you know, snowball on the Cassidy in the early game and then cleanly close out the game before Cassidy gets to, like, see strong team fighting. So often, in almost every Western game I watch, there is some mistakes where Cassidy has a way back in the game.
Yeah, and I think it was also possible this game, but as you said in that team fight much earlier on, the main one in the mid lane that started all off, where Samix went too deep into the TSM lineup and Haunter came around to punish them, that was really the big turning point. Samix right now is the damage output for Unicorns of Love. You know, with this Infinity Edge build, you just got the 7 kills, all the crits coming through. He has to be the one to play their team fight specifically very well.
And it's so hard for him because he's against so many things that's trying to basically jump him over and over. That's kind of thing with Cassidy, is when he jumps in your face, you always want to just target him straight away, but then he has Hourglass, he flashes out or jumps out with his ulti the second time, and then you just divert all this damage towards him while there's still 4 other guys you have to deal with on the side of TSM, but still, could be very even team fights if Samix can do well.
Yeah, TSM were actually setting up for that one. Bio trying to get Exile as he goes back to Distortion, but a little bit early means there will be no engage. He's Mega.
Mega Nah manages to connect Svenskeren against the wall. The Lantern's taken by Haunter. Svenskeren's out the fight, but there's damage onto Bjergsen. He goes golden with the Hourglass. Samix puts down the Featherstorm into nothing. TSM have already disengaged. Nobody's died yet.
Doublelift is actually playing it so well. He hits the arrow too.
Exile was stunned up for a few seconds. Up on the front line, all of a sudden, Xerxes getting more than 48 damage this time round. They trade mid laner for support. Bjergsen stays alive. Gets away. Man. TSM are winning this fight.
Unicorns almost managed to chain CC the Cassidy, but he got the Hourglass off. Samix still alive.
He is indeed. Look at the damage coming down from Doublelift, though, as Samix gets shut down by TSM.
And suddenly you lose that fight. It's the same thing. You look at a Cassidy, you want to kill him. He gets the Hourglass off. He's jumping out. That was almost everything invested by Unicorns on him. And suddenly then, Doublelift can turn the fight around with the rest of TSM.
That's key. Doublelift on this Ashe, which you talked about, he was going to have such a difficult time with all the ways that Unicorns can dive him, but Bjergsen takes the point. He goes in on Cassidy with the Zhonyas. He takes a bunch of the, aggression. Svenskeren as well on the opposite side had to jump out, and Doublelift keeps up his DPS, working around those cooldowns. You have to track those crowd control abilities. Vizicachi going to start out here, and Sven has to get out of the corner.
Yeah, and that's already a problem now for Unicorns, that the big Meganar is used here on tanks. But look at this, just getting the Hourglass in time, jumps out, flashes away. A lot of cooldowns used right now on Cassidy, and suddenly TSM with Haunter in the front line can actually turn around and now go aggressive again.
And then Doublelift hits the arrow for the follow-up here. They get the re-engage. Cassidy, part 2. Bjergsen goes in, he gets a huge amount of damage and barely got out of that one on the side. No extra damage there during the infinite duress, and he still lived.
At the very end, they also get the kill on Samix. But really also the start here with Vizicachi. Flash available, good flank setup, but then he only gets that Meganar on both the Kha'Zix and the Gragas, and not able to get on to someone like Doublelift or Bjergsen with it means that TSM's carries, they do stay alive.
Well, it's 10,000 gold almost for TSM in the lead. Gentlemen, do you remember when TSM's last international BO5 was? Shall I tell you? It was in 2015 Intel Extreme Masters World Final, and it was the last time they got a 3-0 as well. They're on the verge of doing it again against Europe. However, Samux has something to say about it before Hillesan gets shut down. Featherstorm goes out, and despite losing a member early, TSM are putting it back on UOL. Xerxes running for his life as Bjergsen uses the hourglass under the tower. Death sentence onto Samux may sentence UOL to death. Exile gets one back before being shut down himself, and TSM have long death timers to work with.
They've got 3 members here with only Samux standing in their way. 2 Nexus turrets to go down.
The Nexus turrets are falling. First is the victim. Baron-empowered minions. They've got to deal with Samux. The death sentence might just be it. Yes, it is. Double lift secures the ace as the Nexus turrets slowly take it
Hill
down.
is now up. They've got another challenger to approach, but it's just the support.
Yeah, there's too many minions. There's too much damage. And on this day, your Rift rival champions, TSM, declare NA greater than EU.
And they will return to North America a very happy team. Hard work paying off, improvements in their mid-game, improvements in their coordination, improvements in their shot calling. TSM only dropped a single game here at Rift Rivals.
I think just that coordination point is just so key with Svenskeren and Biofrost, Svenskeren and Bjergsen as well. Them always managing to coordinate these plays. Early on, just none of the European teams had an answer against the mid lane pressure with the jungler as well from TSM.
Exceptional performance. The undoubtable best team from groups. The undoubtable best team in the finals.
The undoubted best team in the West.
Proven in the finals. Rift rival champions. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for your Rift Rivals champions, TSM! While NA teams will be taking back jubilation, growth, development, a hell of a lot of bragging rights. EU goes back to the drawing board and figures out what the hell we're doing wrong.
A lot of things, it seems, right now, but yes, that is something for the European teams to look at. A lot of praise goes to North America. They came in here and they looked way better than the European teams.
Definitely excited to see what TSM, Phoenix One, and Cloud9 look like next week in the North American LCS, and what Immortals and CLG have to say about it. They have better have used that extra week of practice well, because the teams here,
they've been bugging the EU
Rivals,
teams. They're trying to pick up some of those strategies.
Yes.
Huge smiles on the side of TSM. And you know what? That was a difficult game 3. They were behind. There was struggles, but TSM it didn't really feel like they were ever a threat, despite being behind in control at times.
I mean, but that's where you know that this team was just a step above the rest, because even when they were under pressure, it never felt like they just fell apart completely. Like, they lost a few kills here and there, then figured out, okay, Unicorns of Love, they need to make some of these plays right now to actually win the game, and then they actually had an answer. Won some of those fights. Cassidy got to 3 items, and Bjergsen was in and out of these fights buying time, and I think just TSM, very well-rounded team that showed a lot of promise both early game, but also once we saw some of these team fights here.
Oh, just great performance overall, and man, so many question marks left unanswered. Like, came into this event with a lot of expectations, and they were flipped on their head. We walk away with now, what did they do back in NA, these 3 squads that showed up in EU? Where does Phoenix One go? Oh, they were number 8 last week. Kobe, you're pointing up, all the way up. Do they make playoffs again? Do they contest for semifinals again? I mean,
playoffs seems like a very, very realistic goal for Phoenix One at this point.
I just really hope right now for the European teams that, while of course losing this tournament really sucks for a lot of them and for all the fans, hopefully they are actually learning a lot and maybe realizing that some of these unique strategies that we see from certain European teams at an international level might not always be the best, because we saw them actually being super exposed.
Yes, I mean, we've seen members of Fnatic talking about their style. If it doesn't work against NA teams, it's not going to work against Korea. We
Pretty
saw
safe to say.
Perks saying that if they go 1-5 here, it's better than going 1-5 in Worlds, for example. Like, there's huge, huge problems to work at. Talking about huge problems and huge things to happen, TSM, they had a huge comeback team fight thanks to Haunce's Gragas barrel. And this is brought to you by Acer. As he gets chunked down by the Lichbane fully stacked rower of Bjergsen. Ash Arrow called the Mimic. I think that was the ultimate of LeBlanc. Is now Sven Skeren. He's looking for Samux. Samux with the Feather Storm, forced to flash to safety. A great gnaw buys enough time for Samux to escape. Haunce's barrel was better. Sven Skeren gets the first kill, followed quickly by Double Lift. Bjergsen, another for Sven Skeren. TSM, ace, unicorn.
Clean ace and...
And what, Kobe?
No more Kobe.
What did you say?
Spoiler, TSM win!
Oh, we're just busy getting set up for the interview, and while we do, a lot to reflect on. A lot to reflect on. I was absolutely enthralled by the games. I was disappointed by the results, I'm not even going to lie. But, like I said, it just sets us up. The amount of hype and banter and
I mean, it can only go downhill from here for North America now. You know? they just peaked at Rift Rivals. Can they do it at Worlds? Who knows? If EU beats them there, suddenly turn it around.
What was Byrofrost saying? He can't remember the last time NA won something. And this is now it, bragging rights. NA versus EU. Kobe, what do you think?
I think things are looking great for North America.
I'm also North American now.
There we go.
There we go.
Well,
welcome home, buddy.
On that bombshell, TSM are the winners of Rift Rivals 2017. Let's check in with Dracos for a word of their jungler and mid laner.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I am joined by Sven Skeren and Bjergsen after a dominant 3-0 over the Unicorns of Love. So, Sven Skeren, I'm going to ask you first, how does it feel to win that title both for North America and for TSM?
Definitely feels great because TSM usually doesn't do too hot internationally, so it feels great to do something good for TSM, I guess. And me personally, I used to always lose against UOL in back when I played in Europe, so it feels good to get back at them as well.
Kind of a similar case over there for you, Bjergsen. You played against them at so many different IEMs, haven't really been able to come out on top quite consistently. How does it feel to finally beat them in a best-of series here on an international stage?
I mean, of course, it feels really good, especially since they were the team that took the one game off of us in the best of ones. I don't even think I played very well this series, but overall, I think my team played really well, communicated well. They carried me pretty hard. I think they were definitely a formidable opponent.
Definitely some fans proud of the team, proud of your guys' performance. Definitely understandable. Surprisingly large amount of TSM fans in Europe, guys. I gotta say,
nice.
I understand why. I get it, but surprised to see so many here. Now, looking forward, Sven Skeren, for you, I feel like there's been a lot of criticism levied at you, like the Lee Sin one-trick kind of commentary, but you played so many different champions. The Lee Sin, still clutch. The Kha'Zix coming in, the Elise and the Gragas as well. Do you feel like you're kind of putting some of those rumors to rest?
Yeah, so it feels kind of bad being called a one-trick rat because, I don't know, just tryharding in NA is like, yeah, I kind of need to tryhard in NA where all the opponents are pretty tough, so playing my best champion.
Well, you don't need to tryhard here.
Wait, okay, I'm sorry. Are you saying you do not need to tryhard here in EU? Are you saying that easier opponents let you play?
No, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, it feels good to get some confidence back on other champions than Lee Sin, which we were able to pull up wins here at Rift Rivals, so yeah, that feels good.
MS Rift Rivals, hey, close enough. Got there in the end. Now, Bjergsen, for you, looking forward, NA being confident against EU here like this, how does this affect you guys moving forward to other international competitions like Worlds? Do you feel like it's going to be even easier to make it out of groups knowing that you can take down these European teams?
I don't necessarily think it'll be easier because I think the EU teams just kind of got caught up in a certain meta, and I think that they're going to adapt a lot for Worlds. And I know that especially G2 is still going to look strong at Worlds. And the Asian region is just still looking pretty strong. So this doesn't give me any kind of overconfidence going into international events because we're going to be facing extremely strong teams going to Worlds if we make it there. And we have to play even better than we did at this tournament to get out of groups.
Well, speaking of, let's look a little bit forward. NA LCS, you guys have taken down Europe. Now NA stands in front of you. Sven Skeren, where is TSM going to finish this season once you guys return?
I mean, I don't want to sound cocky, but we're obviously aiming for #1, so...
Definitely where they want to be. That's where the fans want to see them as well. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking the time to talk to me. We're going to toss things over to the analyst desk to break down that series.
Thank you very much, Drake, as well. Very interesting questions there. And I'm going to ask a couple of those to my guests here as well, as I'm joined by Andrew, Vedius Day, and two of the Rift Rivals champions, Biofrost and Doublelift. That means we talked to almost everybody on the team, or we're going to talk to you guys. I just heard from your teammates, obviously, must be a great victory. But Biofrost, I want to go to you first. A first big victory for you also here at Rift Rivals with TSM. What does it mean to you to make it work in the end?
Well, it's my first ever win in a tournament other than NALCS, so it doesn't mean a lot. It's an international tournament, even though it's only against Europe. So it is good for TSM and I guess NA as a region as a whole, because I don't really remember the last time North America has won any international competition, so this is good.
Well, this is great. Obviously, Doublelift, same thing for you. You have got a ton of titles under your belt already, but this one, even though it is not an MSI or World Championship, it is international competition, and you guys aced the final.
Yeah, for sure. I think, for me personally, it means a lot because I'm coming back off a split where I didn't have a lot of confidence. You know, solo queue made me a shitty player. and then the other thing was, I feel like people, they think of me and they think of like that I choked at last year's Worlds and that I play badly at international competitions, where I don't really feel that way. And so I think this was like a really big statement tournament for me, that I can compete with like the highest level, even though it's just EU, like Biofrost said. So I feel really good, obviously.
Can we stop saying just EU?
I mean, the only competition here was EU.
I'm not sorry to say EU. Yeah,
no, I understand what you mean.
Vedius,
it's just a bit of banter, of course. Like, I am just pulling this. I mean, you are a respect. Like, you had no other opponents. EU were your only opposition in this.
Yeah,
that's what he meant.
You guys have a funny analyst desk,
I think
by the way.
Vedius is
There's
a
no
bit.
desk.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
I think Vedius is just a bit upset that obviously EU did not do a lot in this tournament.
Like, NA is definitely greater than EU.
Yes.
Roman is going to have to turn his arrow around on his chest now, because TSM were able to break the curse and they were able to redeem their record against the Unicorns.
Definitely. And Doublelift, I just want to talk a bit more about your answer there, because you have spoken to your confidence level maybe not being on par in the beginning of summer, and there was this huge spotlight on TSM with you coming back. Well, Doublelift's back. Now, obviously, everything's going to go perfect. So are you happy that, you know, you're taking the steps in the right direction, obviously, with this result? Is that helping the idea that things are going well?
Yeah, the expectations on TSM are always extremely high. And then, you know, for me, there was this extra spotlight because I was coming back. And I don't know, the game is such a team game now that I can play champions like Ashe, and like I can look really good as long as I hit arrows, which previously, like, that was really not the case. Like, AD carry is a lot more team-centric role right now. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I got carried pretty hard a lot of games by like Bjergsen and everyone on the team, honestly. Our team play was just insane.
I mean, your arrows were on point. Biofrost, your performance was also on point. How does that kind of reflect on you or influence you, the fact that this guy has to be the star and also carry a lot in that team as well with the rest, and you guys have to perform? Is that heavy on your shoulders as well?
I think having the stress of being able to perform at every match is really good. It can also be a double-edged sword, because if you don't manage stress well, then it can be really like a fast downhill where, you know, you lose one game and the community really hates you for it, and then you like just kind of chill and you play a lot worse for the next couple of games. But if you can manage that and be able to receive community criticism in like a healthy manner, then it can be really beneficial as well. So I think it's both good and bad.
Yeah, I think you guys should read a lot of Reddit and Twitter now after these matches, because you absolutely deserve it. Vedius, we got to turn that around, obviously, for the European teams. This was an absolute wake-up call that you said, well, it's not really underperforming when your style just gets exposed, and obviously wasn't up to par. So where did they go from here?
Well, the European teams, I think, have come to realize that their strategies, their playstyles are not as effective if they want to try and succeed at international competition. And I think it's really important to identify that, like, the European teams came in exactly as expected. Like, their styles were exactly the same. The players performed at the level that we expected. And NA just really came in and were really a cut above. Like, I thought TSM was very impressive. Phoenix One were really impressive. And, like, they just completely demolished Europe. And I think that moving forward, like Europe just need to expand their styles. And I think the biggest thing is like getting a better understanding of how to build your early game
I'm going to
leads.
challenge you a bit on the every player coming in and playing as we expected, because we did, and you as well, had high hopes for a Caps if he would break or make it on this stage. We had players that had done well. So I feel like some of them really underperformed as well, because it's kind of easy to say, well, they all did bad, but what exactly went bad? Was it individual? Was it in lane that they got outplayed? Was it obviously the objective game?
Well, I think one of the first issues that European teams had, specifically for UOL and Fnatic, is they were very restricted in their champion pools. They were very limited, and I think the best example of that is the TSM versus Fnatic game, where the draft was pretty much perfect from the side of TSM, right? Like, I don't know if you guys knew exactly what they were going to pick every single time, but it felt like that they had an answer to everything. And the fact that Fnatic allowed the enemy team to have a champion like Caitlyn, like, that speaks to it. But also, with Caps specifically, I think one of the reasons why I didn't put him in my OP5 was simply because of experience. This was his first international event. This was the first time that he was going up against top-tier talent in the forms of Bjergsen, Jensen, and Ryu, who are all very experienced and talented individuals. So I think that he should come away with a valuable lesson in what it's like to play against other top teams in other regions, but also like how you just playing your style is not always going to be good enough.
If we look at all the teams, Doublelift and Biofrost, obviously we can say EU teams failed as a whole, but if you look at all three of them, which one do you see a lot of promise or can bounce back, or can they all bounce back, and what are the next steps you guys think?
I think they're all actually pretty good. Playing against each team, I can definitely feel a certain style. I think Fnatic, their bot lane needs to play meta champs, and also with regards to Caps, I think he just didn't understand that it's a really heavy engaged meta, and you can't not run cleanse versus like heavy CC comps. You can't just basically pick bad summoners or pick bad champions. Like, if you're playing Orianna, there was one game where he was just like feeding, straight feeding. And it was like, he's playing Ori versus LeBlanc, and I think Gragas, and he just disrespected Jensen so many times. And as soon as you fall behind once mid lane, you're going to continuously fall behind unless your team gives you vision. So I think it was just like more of a game understanding thing than just saying like, oh, Caps was bad, or like Caps is bad, his playstyle isn't going to work. He probably just didn't know that that could happen to him. And then UOL is obviously pretty good. They're definitely better than I expected coming in. And then who's the last team?
G2.
Oh yeah, G2. I mean G2. You can always count on G2. I don't know. I think they're gonna make worlds. They're fine.
All right, Biofrost. On the topic of G2, obviously our three-time champions here in EU, who we were looking at so much. How do you think they can improve, and what do you think went wrong for them mainly here?
G2, I think for the most part, they have like pretty sporadic performances in the sense that, you know, sometimes they show up really well, and then that was at MSI, and then other times they kind of fall short. And I think we can rely on them to bounce back because they have like really strong players, and their fundamentals are really good. And if the meta is suited for them, or they have a really good understanding of that patch, they can be really, really strong.
Yeah, that's kind of my remark to that too, though, because we've talked to them obviously a couple of times, and a couple of weeks ago they said we don't have a good grasp on the meta yet, but in a couple of weeks, and then definitely in preparation for a tournament like this, it doesn't seem like it's something that you should be surprised by. So I don't really understand that. Do you guys have any pointers to why that could be?
I think part of that could be just like for the players, certain champion picks might not suit their playstyle, as well as like there's a certain type of playstyle that, you know, it might be around mid or it might be around bot lane, and some teams like G2 might not be very experienced with that, and that could be the reason. But being able to play like a variety of playstyles is important, I think.
Right.
But just to add to that, I think that communication is one of the big things that I see as an issue for G2 right now, simply because back when they were like extremely formidable and really terrifying was when Trick and Perks were like this unstoppable duo of like mid jungle, where we were playing a huge amount around our mid lane superstar, and we were getting a huge amount of investment into him. And when you look at a lot of the success from the North American teams, a lot of that is similar, right? Like Contracts and Jensen, the fact that Svenskeren invest time for Bjergsen, right? Like that kind of playstyle is effective because it nets you an early lead, and then all you have to do is have the experience to know how to close out the game. And I think the biggest issue for European teams right now is that here in Europe, we're too used to being too passive in the early game. We trade a few kills here and there, we have a few skirmishes, but the game really starts for us at about the 20-minute mark. Whereas I feel like the North American teams, they're so used to fighting more, and they're used to being more proactive because they have to be, that they suddenly get these big early leads, and the European teams struggle to find ways back.
Double France, it was quite interesting to see, to look across all the teams. For instance, C9, not the best or a phenomenal early game team, but then here they did better. You guys had a phenomenal early game. You snowballed so cleanly. Is that kind of, you feel like, what tipped things over the edge for this tournament, that you guys know how to do that?
I think for me and Bio, we're super good in lane, and so we just try to use our lane advantage and matchup knowledge to snowball that into like more roams or better vision around bot. And then, you know, Brixton's is the best mid in the West, so he's obviously going to win his lane. And Haunter, I mean, he usually, he either gets cheese level 1 and dies, or he'll win his lane. So I think, yeah, we have super strong laners, and that's not has very little to do with our team's playstyle, but we do try to play like smart, I think. And part of playing smart is knowing when to play aggressive. So when we get a lead, we try to turn that 1K gold lead into a 2K and so on.
That was crazy. In the first game, you guys had an 8,000 gold lead at 20 minutes, which is insanity because every player was stepping up. We did have to pick a Rift Rivals MVP for the finals at least, and that was Svenskeren, our finals MVP. It was a very difficult decision. I think that was your pick, but we had Azale and Jad having a Bifrost, a double lift in there as well. Obviously, Bjergs and Hunter are always in the mix, but I can see how it...
It's really tough, right? But just in that final series in particular, I thought Svenskeren had the largest impact in being able to facilitate a lot of the early leads.
Baron.
The way in which he, I mean, like, he did almost give away a Baron, but he did also make up for it by getting the Baron as well. So I think that overall, like, he's had a really impactful tournament. He's been really impressive. And you heard him in the interview with Dracos where he said, like, for him, this was also a great opportunity for him to prove that he's not just a one-trick, right?
That's definitely giggling about.
I mean, Sven never wins 50-50 spites, so when he got the Baron steal, I was just like, am I like awake right now? Like, somebody wake me up, please.
Oh, a bit trash talk even to the own teammate. In like the system that is TSM, we know that Sven had a bit of on-off performances the last couple of months. Is it important that he is absolutely on par to make everything kind of tick in the right way?
Yeah, I mean, jungle is definitely the spear of the team. You know, wherever the jungle goes, the team plays aggressively. And Dennis, I think he just needs like a lot of information from his lanes, just like every jungler does. And I don't know, we work really hard together to play as a unit because we're not all gonna have good games, and sometimes our jungler or one of our laners is gonna fall behind. So we just try our best to, you know, just make sure we always play as a unit. Yeah,
you guys seemed all on the same page. Bifrost also some great engages and disengages when UOL tried to engage. Did you feel like you had a big part in snowballing all these leads for TSM in this tournament?
Not really.
You're a really good Braum, dude. Like.
Okay, thank you. I just think Braum is a really good champion to disengage. His kit just makes him really useful for that. So if I'm doing that, then that means I'm doing my job. I don't think of it as, you know, I'm outperforming or anything. It's just I'm doing what the champion's required to do.
Bio Daddy's just being humble, dude. This guy carries me so hard sometimes.
No.
We'll settle on that. I think you all had a really good series. So the big question is what's next? Because we talked about EU. Obviously, wake-up call in some sense, a good thing that they all had the wake-up call now. But Worlds is just around the corner. So if you turn this around for the NA side of things, the question is, you got to keep this going now because now the expectation is there and you know that you can win all these games. So how do you make sure that you don't fall off in the time between now and Worlds and finally get those results, Peter?
Well, when you play an international tournament, there's a lot of rubber banding. So when EU probably is going to play in the next few weeks, they're going to try to incorporate some new things that they learned from this that without this tournament they wouldn't have been able to learn. And so I think they're going to catch up pretty quickly. It's not like EU is a bad region. And for NA, I think, especially for us, when we go to the next international tournament, we just want to make sure that we still put in that same level of, I guess, effort and determination to be the best. And hopefully we can, you know, even up our level one more time for Worlds.
I'm curious as to whether or not, do you feel that you as a team, especially given your dominance, would you take a huge amount away from this tournament? Do you think you've learned some things? Like, I know you played against some interesting champions like Warwick and the Hecarim. I'm not saying you're going to integrate them, but do you feel you've learned something you can bring to your own playstyle from this?
Me personally, yeah, for sure. Every tournament I play at, I think I take away a lot. And just the level of stress. If NALSys is like a 2 out of 10, this is like a 7 or an 8, and Worlds is obviously a 10. So I think this is great practice for us, and it's a great experience that other NA teams aren't going to be able to have.
Yeah, Bifrost, anything you took away specifically?
I think playing against other bot lanes is really important because you get exposed to a lot of different play styles. You know, with Fnatic, they liked ganking bot a lot, and I think also the other bot lanes also had a really big focus around bot lane, and they're really good at executing ganks with their junglers. So we always had to be careful about, you know, when could they gank and where should we ward so that we know when the gank is coming. So I learned all of those things.
Besides of the victory, taking a lot back to NA with you guys, because I'm pretty curious to see what's going to happen now in NA. CLG is still a top-ranked team. IMT has had some really good showings. C9's been good. Phoenix 1 is all of a sudden top there. So how do you think that's going to evolve in her back? Are we going to see Phoenix 1, for instance, in the playoffs? What do you think of a contender of them now, Biofrost?
I think overall the NA teams look a lot better. I think after this tournament, you know, people are going to be like, okay, NA, you know, we're actually a good region. We're not as bad as everyone thinks. And with all the teams like P1, IMT, CLG, C9, everyone looks really strong and they all have their different playstyles. So it's going to require every team to work so much harder to be able to do well in playoffs and contest for the championship.
Double
I think it's CLG, C9, TSM, top 3. Easy.
Right.
Not in
Yeah.
that order.
Not in that order, necessarily. Yeah, Svenskaren was saying, well, it's going to be TSM, but...
Obviously.
Well, we saw a bunch of interesting competition, a bunch of big plays, and with the dust settled after 4 days of games, it is time to take a look at those big plays. Brought to you by Acer. First up, TSM's mid laner, he pulled his weight this week, and at Sir Potato, he tweeted, Bjergsen is pretty decent at League of Legends.
Knock down the turret. Well, Bjergsen is covering here on the top side.
How about they going to look for him right now, see if they can take him down. He's rooted and stopped up. Featherstorm, he pushes him back. An auto attack was all they needed, but Bjergsen turns it around.
Also fitting that it was TSM versus UOL, but that was a really nice one. And you wanted to highlight some other plays from Shinra, I believe,
yeah,
because
also the
Cassiopeia.
super tense moment between G2 and TSM where it was like 40, 50-minute game, and then he gets that clutch flash ultimate onto Perks, which effectively wins in the game too. Like, he had a lot of good plays this game. He is indeed a pretty good mid laner.
Nice you mention G2 also have... We had other teams in the tournament, although they didn't really get a lot of wins in the end, but they did get some big plays, and Fnatic's top laner is known for his great escapes and showed some magic as Jarvan versus Phoenix 1 at Benkos 1302 asked the perfect question, is it really Soaz without a clutch escape?
Low amount of damage, and the fact that they had the pressure in the bottom lane with which to make that gank happen.
Well, it feels like it's happening.
Oh, man.
Soaz a little bit late on the flash, the barrel comes out. Look at the escape! Soaz, you beauty!
Yeah, even if Fnatic doesn't perform that well, Soaz is always doing these crazy things. He's been around for a really long time as well, so it's kind of impressive. Maybe as long as double lift almost.
Yeah, I think similar. Wait, yeah, he was playing Season 1, right?
Yeah, he was.
Same as me.
Yeah.
Is it really Soaz if he doesn't rage quit a game?
Oh! Moving on to the next one, the Unicorns of Love's visit. Chachi found success with his signature prehistoric Yordle, turning around a huge fight versus Cloud9. Let's take a look.
Now they just run it down mid. Now they're looking to keep the action going. Vizichachi in trouble, couldn't get picked off. Does go Mega, does try to turn this one back, uses the Gargoyle Stoneblade, buys the baited, outsmarted, Unicorns of Love.
That was close.
I love how chilly is after that. Well, Chachi, obviously, he still had a good tournament, despite Unicorns of Love not doing much in the finals. I feel like you guys also really felt it and tried to shut him down a bit. What did you make of his performance during the finals?
He's pretty nuts. I mean, I think even Hotster was telling me that he thinks Vizichachi is the best EU top laner at this tournament by far. And yeah, I mean, that guy is super good. His Gnar is insane.
His Gnar is insane. Vedi, in the end, the Unicorns of Love, what can they take away? They have these big plays. They have growth that they can show through the group stage. Just an unfortunate final for them.
I just think that they need to adapt their draft pretty significantly. Like, the big thing for me is, like, Xerxes has been very well known for picking those scaling junglers, and I want to see him, like, try and invest stuff into Exile. Let's see what happens if you can snowball this mid lane, who I do think has talent. It's just very much right now that it's a lot more focused on, like, the top lane and the bot side of the map.
That it is. Not a lot of days, though, for our teams to recoup. For you guys, neither. It's back to NA and back to the NA and EU LCS, because we return next week already when we start with the second half of the summer split, or continue. Be sure to follow us there as the teams continue their march down the road to Worlds. I can almost not read it. We have Rocka versus H2K, NIP versus Vitality, and CLG versus FlyQuest, and IMT versus Fox. So you guys at least get a little time to get back into the habit. Do you think it's going to affect you a lot, the fact that you have to fly back now and just keep going, actually, show that you're the best?
Yeah, traveling's not super fun. I just hope we don't lose randomly, like go 0-2. That would be like a really anticlimactic end to this win. But
it would be forgiven. So you guys.
Yeah, exactly. We got an excuse now.
And Phoenix
Let's
once
go.
said that on the flight here is where they felt like they really leveled up. So maybe ask them, you know, what happened exactly and how you guys could just use the time to.
Maybe they were just watching like the same movie on the plane or something.
Yeah, maybe they're completely in sync. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. Congratulations. Fantastic victory for TSM. Thank you, Vedi, as well, for joining me as always. And thank you guys for watching. That will do it from us here at Rift Rivals 2017. We will be back for more LCS action next week. Have a great night.
North America is leading the fan vote at the moment, and they're leading the expectation as we load up for Rift Rivals Finals.
Top side and a lot of praise to TSM in the early vision.
All right, Rune Prison comes out. Trigger Seed flashed away from. Not done yet. Bjergsen gives up first blood to Exile. Now Svenskeren gets the first. Shuts down Hylissang. That's a double. Looking for the triple as Samus uses the Featherstorm for time. Exile tastes their fear. Xerxes runs for his life. TSM diving under the tower. Ace the Unicorns. Finds Samus. Devour buys a few seconds of time for Vizicachi to arrive. First blood is available, picked up by Svenskeren. Hornser rather makes it a double kill. The attack in the distance not enough. Exile's on a rampage. He hits Bio with a big one. Death sentence comes out, but there's no tower to run to.
No.
Solid base. Oh my god. Dragon's in a minute.
He goes in. Steals it. Team Solomid steal the Baron.
Oh my god.
Got a package. Gonna need that one to escape.
Oh, wrong way.
Does it the opposite direction.
Wait, I clicked on... Oh my god, maybe I clicked on the map.
Team Solomid go 2-0 up in the Rift Rivals Finals. Engage goes in, Biofrost is caught out, flashes may be needed, already used, somebody heal! First blood picked up by Hylissang.
Let's play for Herald top side.
Oh, they're on me top. Holy
I'm
shit.
ready.
I'm dead.
Okay.
Another flash use, so it's Biofrost and double lift the Gnaw backwards into the Blade Caller route. It's a kill for Exile. A great Gnaw. Buys enough time for Savix to escape. Hornser's barrel was better. Svenskeren gets a first kill, followed quickly by double lift. Bjergsen, another for Svenskeren. TSM, Ace, Unicorns. This time round, they trade mid laner for support. Bjergsen stays alive, gets away. TSM are winning this fight. This day, your Rift Rival champions, TSM